Everybody, this is Kevin Breslin. Welcome to another broadcast of Breslin What's It Doing. This conversation we're going to have today deals with my father. My dead father got a new job. My brother James calls me and says, Kev, did you read the article Dad wrote? I said, what? He sends it to me. He wrote a real estate column. It was in the newspaper in San Diego by Jimmy Breslin. Now, I've known my father my whole life. He never wrote a real estate column to the best of my memory. I was trying to figure out how he wrote this. So I called the guy up there at the paper out there and he said, oh, we just used his name. I said to the guy, are you kidding me? How could you do that? He says, he's dead. I said, wow. He said, everybody's using him. I said, what do you mean everybody's using him? He said, well, go to the University of Oregon. They're teaching him. I said, what? He said they have a journalism department there and a journalism type of school, an online class where they ask Jimmy. And our guest today is Ed Madison, who is a journalist, University of Oregon professor, prominent man. Hey, Ed, how the hell did this even happen? How'd you come up with this?
Oh, wow. The long and the short of the story. Yeah, so definitely mischaracterized in terms of what we're doing. You know, in addition to my role as a professor, journalism professor at University of Oregon, I'm also executive director of a nonprofit called the Journalistic Learning Initiative, JLI, and very proud of the work that we do. We're in 18 states and mostly serving students in middle and high school and their teachers. And when this whole AI thing emerged, I was fortunate to meet some researchers from MIT who were developing chatbots that teachers could use to help teach 5-paragraph essay writing. And I thought, what about journalism? And so the guy said to me, oh yeah, you could do that. And so within a week, I went home and created our first AI chatbot, which is called Murrow, named after Edward R. Murrow. It's designed not to write for kids, not to write in the voice of Murrow, but to actually coach them to think for themselves and become better writers on their own. And so the titling or the names of the chatbots is actually sort of an homage to their legacy. It's not intended to replicate or pretend to teach or fabricate the voice of those great individuals, including your father. So that's the short version of it. And somehow that got misconstrued in a New York Post article and resulted in some very interesting emails between the two of us.
Well, my father would say, ask Jimmy. First things he would say is, send me the money. You can call 1-800-HEAVENS and send me my check. Since he's a writer that likes to get paid. But how did you even figure Jimmy?
You know, I'm of an age where I used to see him on talk shows and things, you know, and he was such a prominent figure. And we were looking at as news reporting or news writing has its various specific distinctions, so does feature writing and opinion writing, you know. And so we have a whole host of journalists that we have chosen to celebrate their legacy by naming them. And so he was just the first person that came to mind in terms of just his stature and what he represented in terms of the work that he did.
Now, you brought up a good thing I liked. I know my father would like it. And he loved teachers, by the way, also. His mother was a teacher, his sister was a teacher, his aunt was a teacher. That young people are learning. Do they go to him and pick up anything with Breslin? Does it help them at all?
Well, I have to respond to that in two different ways. You know, we are in the last year or so just all trying to make sense of what AI is going to mean for writing of all kinds, but also journalism, right?
Yes.
And we know, as you know, from our own years in school, there's always been a way to cheat, you know, whether it was writing answers in the palm of your hand or trying to sneak something, you know. And so there's always a fast way to just kind of check the boxes and try to get a good grade. But what we're trying to instill with young people with this tool is that, no, you're shortchanging yourself. If, you know, first of all, if you go to ChatGPT and say, write me an essay, if you don't actually have an understanding of what good writing looks like, you have no sense of whether it's any good, right? So it's important that young people, I think, I don't mean to vilify AI. I think it's good, but we need to give them some experience with just basic foundational writing skills and reading good works before we just unleash AI. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, you did it because you have all Breslin's articles there now, which helps them. A kid could look at the site and go to an article and learn about short sentences winning,
Right.
and then maybe use AI as an enhancer.
Exactly.
Or AI can run away on you.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, do you tell these kids don't bother just being lazy? But by the way, do you explain to them, you still have to go out and cover a story and do the legwork?
Oh yeah. So this is our tools have been adopted by there's an organization called the Journalism Education Association, and they are the largest sort of convener of journalism, high school journalism programs and yearbook programs across the country. Every year they have two conferences, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast, and they average about 500-600 students and their advisors at each of those conferences. So when we presented Murrow initially at two of those conferences, the teachers were all over it because, as you can imagine, first of all, grading writing is labor intensive. And second of all, a lot of times teachers are repeating the same sort of rudimentary, tips and strategies. What this allows them to do is to focus more on one-on-one work with students. So it's not taking the human component out of it. It's actually allowing more time for the human component. And some of those, again, rudimentary elements that teachers end up repeating time and time and time again can be left to the AI tool.
Now, my father used to say anything but writing is easy. It's hardly a cliche. But when you look at his Ask Jimmy, give me an idea when you say, all right, let's go to Breslin, Ask Jimmy. What do you say? Hey, Jimmy, what do you get back from Jimmy?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, one of the most confronting things for young and emerging writers is just the blank screen, and a blinking icon. And some of them have no idea where to start. So if you look at a sort of typical, let's say, middle schooler who is being introduced to just the whole concept of journalism for the first time, and you say to them, okay, well, what are you interested in? Well, I don't know. I walk by homeless people in my way to school. Maybe I should write something about them. Well, they don't realize that there've been, 20,000 stories written on homelessness. So what the Jimmy tool would help them do is to, first of all, figure out how to localize the topic so that they can make it, not something that's generic. Look at maybe, are there voices that you should consider talking to that, that are underrepresented? And those kinds of things. Maybe they're going to interview somebody the next day, and so the tool would not write their questions for them, but would assist them in thinking deeper about the kinds of questions that would be appropriate, so that they're better prepared. So it's a coach, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. It doesn't write for kids. It doesn't do the work for them, and I think that's why just the education community has embraced it.
Have you had a good outcome from it?
Yes. Yes, we have. I mean, again, when I go to these conferences, I get stopped in, elevators, and folks say, "Oh, you're the guy behind, Murrow or these AI coaches." Thank you. We're so thankful. We've also had a good bit of press coverage around it. And so, yes, I mean, it's been a year and a half, and so we're still in the early stages, and we're always thinking about, new and different tools. And of course, AI is changing so rapidly, it's hard to keep up with it,
Has Breslin helped teaching thinking in this? I mean, because our podcast is about Jimmy. I mean, has it helped? People say, wow, because Jimmy would say, you write what you know, and short sentences win.
Yeah. I think anecdotally, I could tell you, yes. Have we done like extensive surveys? And no, we haven't. But I would say that our entire suite of tools, which include, one on Ida B. Wells and, Max Robinson, and, a lot of people don't know, you would know this, but, Jane Chastain, who was the first
Yeah.
woman sports journalist allowed into the NFL locker rooms. I mean, these are people that I think kids need to know about, particularly in this period in time. When you think back to McCarthyism and what Murrow stood for, I think we could use a little of that without getting political right now.
Of course. I mean, it's an amazing topic because my father's dead. As I was saying, he's dead with 7 years, and now he has a job, whether he likes it or not. So I find the whole thing fascinating. But to the kids, like, does Jimmy write for them?
No, Jimmy does not write for them. Jimmy will look at their writing. They can upload something that they've written, and Jimmy won't even rewrite it for them. What Jimmy will do is it'll say, hey, you may want to think about expanding this part a little bit, or maybe you might want to get another perspective on this topic from this type of person. So again, it's a coach. It doesn't do the work for students.
How do you have a guardrail, though, to keep it from Jimmy just grabbing the thing and doing a rewrite for the kid?
Well, that's the magic of AI. So, even without having to understand coding, which I don't, it's really a matter of a sort of a back end set of instructions that tell the tool never, ever write for a student. It also flags certain things that you as you can imagine, we're talking about minors here, so we need to make sure that if there's just a safety issue or a mental health issue, or someone's having suicidal ideation or those kinds of things, we can't just allow young people to be working with a tool that's dangerous in that way. So there's lots of guardrails.
Does it point like people to say Breslin's work, and does it say like, go read his column and see how he does it, how he really did it? I mean,
no. We added, and after discussions with you, we added some more contextual information about his background and his legacy. But what it does point to is like the Society of Professional Journalists, their codes and ethics and those kinds of sort of general industry accepted sort of guidelines for how we should do journalism.
And did you ever take one of his columns? Maybe if you haven't, maybe you should, and see how AI rates it.
I haven't, but that's a good idea.
Start with the Gravedigger or John Lennon or some of the great ones, or RFK, Death in Emergency Room #1. I would love to see how AI has their own interpretation of it as opposed to a human editor.
That would be interesting. I'm just curious if I can ask, just what was it like, growing up with such a just a powerhouse figure, and
no, Sick was good. He'd be all over this conversation. And I'm just happened to, somebody said, the nasty guy in San Diego, when I wrote him a note, he goes to me, what are you, a Nepo baby? I was thinking, holy Christ, I'm anything but a Nepo baby. I was just curious how you used my father's name to write a real estate column. And the guy was irate. And what a nasty guy, by the way.
Yeah.
I said to the guy, you're just too clumsy for me. But no, it was, look, there was no AI then when he wrote.
Right.
He was AI, if you really want to get down to it. The raw human emotion, understanding a beat, understanding a second, seeing a scene, writing it with verbs, and painting a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're using this tool with him, which is completely admirable, because I love the fact that underprivileged students all over America maybe one kid might get a notion or something, and he'll be able to take off on his own, and this could help him.
Right.
He came out of a time where the only tool was your feet, your hands, your eyes, and writing down a quote. And then, as he said, I don't care about the facts, I tell the truth. so this is a transition, what you guys are doing in a way, taking.
Right. Well, I mean, I know, you do some filmmaking, right? Are you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what's your sense? I mean, we're all. I mean, there's a huge. They've got AI actresses now. I think one of them is represented by an agent? And I mean, what, it's, there's a big question about what all this means. But, from my perspective, I think that we need to be looking at this as a tool, as a sort of as almost like a collaborator or a partner in terms of producing original work, but not something that we just offload, because writing should be difficult. If it's anything, if you think about anything that we really value, there's been some struggle attached to it, whether we like the struggle aspect of it or not. I'm trying to learn piano right now, and I'm having a hard time.
Are you planning on using any other like writers? Like, why didn't you go after Tom Wolfe? Why not Gay Talese? Why not? Well, Talese is alive, so he might. I don't know. I don't know with that, but like, why not about Wolfe? I don't know when he died, but I don't know if you guys looked into that, and this is not what this conversation's about. But I know like some authors would be berserk, going, wait a minute, you're using my work and even my likeness. I got to get paid.
Yeah.
You just said they're getting agents.
Yeah. Well,
It's a tricky topic.
we have we looked at different genres of writing. One being like opinion or commentary, and that tool is pays homage to Ida B. Wells. We have another tool that looks at broadcast writing, which is a little bit of its own style. And we Max Robinson, who I had the privilege of actually when I was in high school, he was locally in Washington D.C. on television before he went to ABC. And so that's kind of where we are now. I'm also working on another tool. We've done some tools that are around career exploration. So they're not so much about coaching writing. They're about helping kids, because one of the hardest things for I think everybody is trying to figure out what are you going to be when you grow up, and you may have curiosities and interest in things that you like to do, but how do you translate that into like a paying career? So we've got a tool that we're working on, and I've got a working prototype for it. Well, we've got one for youngsters that we call SASSY, which is short for Sasquatch, because in this part of the country, Bigfoot is a thing. But we've got, Studs Terkel and his legacy of the working books.
Paul and the Studs were great friends.
Yeah, well, so that's another one that we're kind of working on, but we haven't.
Go get the interviews. You can find the interviews that Studs Terkel did.
Yes, on hours and hours and hours of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you should listen. They were great together, those two guys. Yeah. It's funny you're bringing this up because newsrooms are dying, and kids don't even get exposed to great writing anymore. So in that way, you're doing a hell of a service. But now, do you tell them that where do you go to even get work? Or is AI now just becoming the work?
Well, it's a tough question. So, the journalism school at the University of Oregon is over 100 years. Celebrated that about 4 or 5 years ago, and our numbers are strong. You would think that everything that's happening in journalism that. However, our program does also include advertising and public relations and media studies. But our journalism numbers have held steady, and they're strong. I think for sometimes, people talk about the sort of Watergate moment when the country seemed like it was in crisis during the Nixon era, and which is when I was in high school. Sometimes that can be a calling for folks, that young people say, "Hey, I want to, roll my sleeves up and be a part of making sure that the public's informed." But again, without getting political, I mean, we are at a very unusual place in terms of just a lot of things that are going on internationally and nationally in our country, and we're going to need journalism to help us all make sense of it.
Is it? Yes, I agree. Has anybody criticized you? Has anybody said, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? I mean, who told you could do something like this? This is outrageous. This is an affront to like individuality and free thinking." And I'm just
I think they would. If we had a tool that was writing for kids, I think I would definitely hear a lot of that. But that's not what we're doing, and so I think the spirit kind of overshadows. I think the knee-jerk reaction would be, "Oh, whoa, wait a minute! You're because when people hear AI, they immediately go to the word cheat." You know,
Well,
you know,
you
when
know, I
they,
said, wait a minute, ask Jimmy, what the hell is this? You know, I know how hard it is to write a sentence, how hard it is to even put something down on paper. As you said,
yeah,
you look at a blank screen and oh boy. Um, and I'm thinking he slaved away like it, the human effort, the pain of it all, the blood, sweat, and tears of it all. And all of a sudden now all you have to do is pull up Chatbox GBT, say, get me Breslin, give me a style like that and something.
well, I mean, I think ChatGPT will do that. You can take something and say, I want this to sound like, Shakespearean, and it'll do it, but before you can blink, and I don't. It is again. There are so many ethical and philosophical questions that this new technology raises for us that we've never thought of before.
This is
Like,
us right now. This is
yeah,
exactly us.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
like,
what would happen? I was just saying this to a colleague. So let's say, your dad were still with us, and and he uploaded everything he'd ever written to AI, and then decided he was going to, therefore, moving forward, use AI to augment or supplement his ability to turn out more material. Is that AI writing it, or is that him writing it? Because AI has actually been, this AI tool that he might have built would have been trained on his writing. That's a real question that I don't know that we have an easy answer for.
wow. First things first. First things first, he sit down at that typewriter and he bang it out himself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that was just sacrosanct. There was just, you couldn't make a sound around him. The sounds would kill him. He was
Wow.
like creating an orchestra. He's like an orchestra. You're hearing the sounds, you're writing it, you're feeling it. The rage. He said rage is the only thing that kept him going to write newspaper articles anyway.
Mm.
So I don't see any rage in AI.
You know,
AI is the most complacent, gentle, smooth tool in the world. So I don't think AIs will ever be able to capture
yeah,
his work. But I don't think he would feed it into AI. And this is what I was asking you. I don't know if a lot of writers, they might say, hey, Kevin, F off right now. Bullshit. Nobody's taking my work. My work is mine. It goes on paper here. However, yes, that's absolutely true. But the world has changed. It's almost a revolution. AI
well,
already does all his work.
I think we have to talk about what kind of writing, because I think there's a lot of, like, for example, with our nonprofit, we utilize it a lot for grant writing because it's really, really not, it's not, it's this funder wants 500 words, this funder wants 350 words.
Right.
We could spend, an hour and a
Yep.
half trying to consolidate it, or we could throw it in AI. And so for that kind of sort of technical,
Yep. Yep.
mundane, sort of writing, I think I don't have a problem with it, but I still don't want it to replace, human ingenuity, and really, what made your father, and I'm not just saying this, but what made him so great.
It was love and passion, and that's it with the kids. You think, well, that's why I do appreciate what you're doing, because I really hope that they'll read him and say, wow, they'll discover him, and it'll give them their own ability. As he used to say, someday some kid will, maybe he'll read something, he'll take off on his own and be big. Because he was a futurist, my father. So he wasn't like, I don't think he wouldn't be mad at this. I think in one way he'd be fascinated. I know his agent would say, wait a minute, where's the money? Because
You
that's his
know,
agent.
the analogy that I often use, and this is the one thing that does concern me about all this, is that before GPS, we all used to sort of have a sense of direction and know how to get from
Yes.
one place to another, and before just we used to, even people used to remember phone numbers and all kinds of things, and I do wonder if we're losing our capacity to be able to grapple with ideas in a way that we can then lay out ideas on paper, convincingly, powerfully, I don't know, and I don't know. I mean, I do worry about
You
you.
don't know, and you're at the forefront of it. You're the first guy that did this.
Well, yes, but when I'm
And
talking,
you
but
don't know.
they're generational things, I mean, if you have nephews or nieces or grandkids or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
that there are things that are easy to them that baffle older folks like us, and so
Mhm.
there's a generational aspect of this that you and I can only surmise, but whether or not how kids relate to it is completely different.
But they're relating. Look, how many schools do you have that get involved in this, like across the country? You said you have quite a.
We are in 18 states, and we've probably impacted about 15,000 students over the 10 years. Now, whether or not they're all utilizing our tool, no, but we make it available to teachers, and the numbers change from year to year. Just teachers move from school to school, administrators move. It's kind of a moving target, but and we're also still getting the word out. So.
It's interesting. From the University of Oregon, you'd figure you guys could get the word out pretty good yourselves, also.
Well, I need to be clear about that because University of Oregon is my employer, my full-time
Yes.
employer, but the work of this particular project and the nonprofit is separate and apart.
Okay.
It's its own
Yeah.
entity, and we have we collaborate and all that, but University of Oregon is really not responsible for this particular project.
That's understood. Sure. So, I mean, is it thrilling, do you think, that you can move forward with something like this? Is it exciting? You're thinking, well, it's not going away.
No.
This is not going away. It's
Well,
only burgeoning.
yeah, I mean, what's exciting to me is the fact that, and I tell this to my students all the time. They've got a device in their pocket that shoots, high definition, 4K video, Dolby sound. They can edit something, push a button, and share it with people in, halfway around the world in an instant. I mean, that just is so outside the realm of reality of what we could have even thought about when I was in college. And so, again, it's moving so fast. I have no idea, where it's all going, but I do think, and I'm not just being Pollyanna about this, I think good storytelling, no matter what the technology is or the devices or all that stuff, good storytelling is what really, captivates an audience and gets people interested and engaged and, I don't know, moves the human spirit, if you will. And I don't know if machines can do that. They can maybe replicate it, but I don't know if they can do it. I think it's still going to require the human touch.
It's funny you say that because you'd mentioned about a kid earlier and saying, he'd go to it and read it. You said, tell me, write about something. And my father would always expound, write about what you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if
AI doesn't know anything. Well, it knows what it's been fed, but it hasn't experienced. I guess that's the piece. It hasn't experienced anything.
Oh, now this is fascinating. Well, then how did you load in all about Breslin? How does it keep growing to make it stronger, to make Jimmy stronger?
Yeah, well, again, just to be really, really clear, it's the fact that we named it Breslin or Jimmy actually, because that was the other piece too, is that
Yes, Jimmy.
I did consult a trademark and image and likeness attorney, a very good one in Los Angeles, who I'd worked with for years when we did the first tool, Murrow, and I said, "Are we going to get in trouble, with the
Nope.
Murrow estate?" And they said,
Nope.
"No. I mean, as a matter of fact, there's a journalism school and a high school, and there's all kinds of places named after Murrow." And so, with the other tools, we just used first names, and we have a bio page that says this is in honor of Jimmy Breslin. But
Yeah, no, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with rights of publicity, you're fine. We're not getting into a legal conversation.
Yeah.
That's all. That's more sense.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're totally fine. It's more like, holy smokes, you put it on the internet. Some guy's teaching, coaching, and that's when I went back to my original line. My dead father got a job. It's unheard of. Think about it. I mean, I think in the annals of journalism stories, what we're talking about right now is pretty pretty individualistic,
Right.
or I don't even know the word here. It's pretty one of a kind. Now, look, you're going to get hit again and again and again. People saying, "Why didn't you use Dominic Dunn? Why didn't you use Tom Wolfe? Why don't you use
Right.
whoever? Name the you can pick the author. Truman Capote. I don't care.
Right. Right. Right.
Why don't you use Hemingway if he was in New York? I don't know the laws of where state he lived in or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, it's what you came up with a pretty novel idea, though. I have to give you all the credit in the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it started with Murrow, and again, so I'll tell you a little quick thing here. When I was a student in college at Emerson, and I would have to take the train to New York and go to the Museum of Broadcasting and pull out VHS tapes to watch episodes of See It Now, to see Edward R. Murrow smoking a cigarette and talking to Jackie Kennedy and and John F. Kennedy at the White House, and just it blew my mind. Of course, all that stuff's on the internet now, but I do think, for me at least, what inspired me about this profession and this whole area is just the power of ideas, and the fact that whether it's writing or television or radio or that ideas can influence people's behaviors and perspectives and things like that. And so and I think too few of our young people know about Murrow unless they saw Good Night and Good Luck, or know about your dad, or
Absolutely.
certainly Ida B. Wells. Even fewer know about her. So.
But if they want to learn about the art of writing a newspaper column, and it can help in any other field, it can certainly help in PR, it can certainly help in anything, because short sentences win in verbs.
Yes.
My father, he would admire you because he would tell me, what do I care about what they say about me when I'm gone? He used to tell me that. And I used to like look at him. But I think that what you're doing is very helpful if you can teach any kid to maybe read a little bit more or write a little bit more, and wherever they go with it, I think actually you're doing something positive. Now, and I am saying this with, I know people would say, "Oh, Kevin, why don't you go F yourself, man?" That's not what the game's about. However, we're dealing with an industrial revolution, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think there's any turning back. Do you?
No, I don't. I don't think there's turning back. And I don't know. I mean, what's your sense when you play around with AI? What is your sense?
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm going to load in one of his columns to try to get a depiction. I mean, I know AI. I know enough about all of it, and name the sites. Some of it's ludicrous.
Right.
It's almost like it goes backwards to go forward, to go backwards to go forwards. I mean, stop.
Right.
You have a point of view, keep it in, but then they break down point of views to the point where I think it makes people overthink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it helps people on deadline with raw writing energy, or even people with television or people in PR.
Yeah.
But you're right. It can take a quick, like say like you had to have you said 500 words or 300 words to fit into something.
Right.
You got to hire an editor to do it and everything like that.
Right.
You can do it by yourself and you have it in 6 seconds. Well, that's just where it's going. Why bother fighting it?
Yeah.
But in terms of writing a real story about heart and soul, you still, whoever's prompting the AI still has to have all or most of all of their story in order before they allow the thing to become editorial.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I think you got to pump the kids with that, because it'll start over editing and they'll blow their original idea unless they're really, really tough.
Yeah. No, I mean,
but then wait a minute, Ed, a writer in a newspaper, you bring him in, right? Or a magazine or somewhere, you bring in the piece, they start ripping it away and shaping it their own way.
Yeah.
And the writer was thinking, wait a minute, that's not what I had in mind.
Right.
So is it any different? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's kind of the Wild West out there right now, and I also think that different AI tools are good for different things. I mean, I've kind of played around with Claude and some of the
Yeah,
other Anthropic tools, and then there's
yeah,
another one, you know, Gemini, and
yeah,
they're sort of optimized for different things.
yeah, yeah.
So there's no one
Sometimes
size
it's too
fits all.
nice, I think, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think you should ask the kids when they're writing and they pump it in, say, how much do you hate this? Then we'll see if they can rewrite and think. I bet you're not that smart. Um, because as you know, my father was a deadline player, and you had to have that work done. It had to be almost perfect. It had to be so perfect that we're having this conversation now when he did it then.
Yeah. And I don't know how people did that with typewriters. Can you imagine trying to write something now in a typewriter? I mean, without the ability with word processing to like move things around and sort of say, "Hey, I like this better." It's just
You
like that's
attack the
changed the way
story
we think
differently.
too. Huh?
No, good point, Ed, but you attack the story differently.
Yeah.
At least my father did. He already knew coming into it, his lead, he already knew what he was doing, short sentences. He already had it structurally in his mind where he was going with it. That's why he couldn't hear any sounds, because he was completing it. Now, would an editor say, Jimmy, boom, boom, cut this or cut that? The great Jim Bellows, certainly, a Dick Wald, certainly, Sam Roberts at New York Times, all these guys. But ultimately, I think you wrote with a fever then. You already were seeing it, feeling it, and writing it, and smashing the carriage of a typewriter.
Right.
Now, you could probably, you're right, be general, cut and paste it into AI, whatever, and get back some feedback. Now, if you're
Well, with
not,
word processing, sometimes, like sometimes
yeah, even,
I have this great closing, that comes to me first, and I maybe put that in and realizing that I'm not, that I can sort of not write linearly in the way that
mhm.
you had to before with just pen and paper or with a typewriter.
You're right. When you go to Grammarly starts ripping apart your work too, and you're like, stop it. Pass, dismiss, dismiss,
Right,
dismiss.
right.
Bullshit.
There's
It's like,
nothing wrong with, passive voice sometimes.
you know what? We'll leave on this one. And that's a good point. Breslin wasn't passive.
No.
And what scares me is that his work will never be mired in that, but maybe it'll help people realize not to be passive.
Yes.
And if I would ask you one favor, that you would encourage the kids to read them, because they may get a tiny idea, one little thing, and that could become a big thing in their lives at some point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I think you're doing something remarkable, revolutionary. You're way out in front of it. Oh, well, wait a minute. Are you? I mean, are other people trying to rob you now and do it all?
No, I think, well, I mean, there are always going to be, like sort of textbook companies and like, well, I won't name them, but the textbook companies that are always trying to figure out how to cookie cutter something and take the life out of it. But no, so far, I'm not hearing of a lot of other tools, similar to what we're doing. So.
Because I don't think it's as easy as everyone thinks, by the way.
No, it's not. People ask me with the Merle, like, how long did it take you to build that? And I go, 30 years. And they go, what do you mean? Because that's how long I've been, in the trenches of not only, writing and producing journalism, but also teaching. So it's
Sure.
not something that can be mimicked easily, so.
No, and that we can go on that one, but that's a great point. And there's where I wanted to make sure that even with whatever AI tool you're using, I think it's GBT, that you wouldn't mimic Breslin so much as to encourage people to get an idea about a sentence, a subject, and what a predicate. What is it? Is that it? Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think and short sentences win.
Yeah.
I think my father I think he'd be happy with that, knowing some kid might pick up on it, because they're not going to pick up on it reading books, because I don't think they read books.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Look,
That's a
newspapers are caving in, they're dying. So where are you going to get this information from? Where will you learn it from? If in fact you're inclined. from what you're doing,
Well,
actually.
this is even a longer conversation. You know, it has to do with the fact that I'm not sure we're even modeling, you know, just the for kids, you know, just consuming news and information. Meaning, you know, you watched your dad not only write journalism but also, you know, read publications, and you knew what it was reading. But if a parent, you know, is in front of a kid and they're on their phone, they could be shopping on Amazon. I mean, we just don't have this sort of same culture of valuing being informed in the way that we always did. And I think, you know, we're seeing the repercussions of it, you know.
Yeah, they're going to write about you anyway. He's probably going to say, you're not telling the truth.
Right.
They're going to say it's their interpretation of AI. So this is what I'm getting at. I don't think anybody wins here, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or everybody wins because you're still encouraging people to
Read and write.
And think on their own 2 feet.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so our organization is Journalistic Learning Initiative. If you go to journalisticlearning.org, you can find us. I'm also, you can find me through the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication. My email is Madison2, that's Madison, the number 2, at uoregon.edu. And social handles are, you know, at Ed Madison. So
Fantastic. This is really fun and very, very, very interesting. And I think we'll probably talk a little bit more one of these days again, because this is only blowing up.
okay.
Going, Ed. Thank you. And everybody, thanks for listening to Breslin What's Doing.